That was dot swoosh s in terms of like execution, man.
Wow.
Woo!
What shots fired?
I said what I said.
Uh,
Anyways,
everyone that I'll
thank
let you
you
take it. I was
for.
gonna take it because I didn't know if you could recover from that transition, but I'll let you. I'll let you go ahead and. I'll let you go ahead
Oh
and wrap
my
it up.
gosh, man, that was awful. All right, hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast. I am your co-host Juan Martinez, and to my left or to my right, Jacques, you're wearing a track and field. Are you going on a run today, man? Are you getting back on that running grind? Because that's what it feels like right there, man.
I need to be back. I need to be back on the running grind. I just really like this shirt. It has has this open part here.
Oh, whoa, hey, man. Yeah, that's for OnlyFans. That's for the OnlyFans, man. What are we doing here? For our people who are not watching the video component, Jacques just showed shirt.
I showed shirt. A little bit of t-shirt underneath.
A little bit of t-shirt underneath. Like, hey, man, we need to get paid for that. We need to get paid for that, buddy. What are we doing here?
Just saying. That's funny. That's
so.
very
Oh, okay.
funny.
So you haven't been lately?
No, I haven't been running lately, which is very sad. I need to be
Uh,
out there running.
yeah.
Because I've been lazy, to be fair. So
Well, I mean, you have been like a bit of a traveling, working kind of deal, so it's kind of hard to like squeeze a run in there. So I'm gonna
yeah,
have that
but
trouble for the next couple of weeks. I've been on that treadmill thing for a while, but for a while it's gonna be like, oh god, where am I gonna get a run in? But yeah, you
I mean, you
gotta.
can go. I mean, you could just get to the treadmill. Are you gonna be in hotels?
Yeah, there are gonna be hotels, there's gonna be Airbnbs and all that stuff. For people who do not know, I'm going to be on quote unquote vacation for the next couple of weeks. And gonna be gallivanting all around undisclosed
Gallivanting.
location. Yeah,
Oh, that's
gallivanting.
very
Yeah,
very
yeah.
sophisticated term. I think
Don't
that
worry,
only.
there's still gonna be content. There's still gonna be podcasts and all that stuff. So don't worry about that. All of you who are like worried about, oh no, we're not gonna have our fix. No, we're gonna still do the pod. There's gonna be content. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I will be just vacationing somewhere that I don't want to disclose. Well, you'll find out
Wow.
eventually, but it doesn't matter.
Enjoy, enjoy your time away, gallivanting. Apparently, enjoy your time gallivanting.
I'm more worried about like where can I get a run in when I'm on a vacation? Like what's wrong with me?
I always find when I visit a new city, getting out and walking around, and getting out and see the city in a life that you
That's
didn't
true.
necessarily expect. So
Oh,
if you
okay.
have the
Well,
opportunity, get out early, a couple of days when you're in wherever you're going and explore. Especially when I was marathon training, because I was doing like 6 to 10 mile runs when I would be traveling, and I
uh-huh.
would just get up. I would get up at like 5 in the morning and do like a 6 to 10 mile run, like before the city kind of wakes up, kind of let you see the city in darkness and see it in light because the sun would be coming up. It's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
yeah.
See, the part you had me until you said 5 a.m. I'm like, what's a 5 a.m.?
It's good though. It's a good time to
Yeah,
see the
I'm sure.
city.
Absolutely. I think I will definitely try to give that a shot because I want to maximize my minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows when I'm gonna get a chance to like go back to those kinds of places? But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, when I travel too, I try to like do a walk at like 8 a.m. At least there, like the city's pretty much awake. But yeah, no, 5 a.m. run probably sounds like a good idea this time around.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
got to get
definitely.
out a little bit earlier. Like I would always recommend people get out, even if it's at 6, you get up at 6 and you get out at 6. It's like
Yeah,
right before the city really wakes up, and it's just a
yeah.
different experience.
That probably sounds right. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll give that a shot. And then, like, while I'm doing that at 5 a.m., I'll be like, where am I? I don't know. I have zero like, idea where. I'll call you, be like, this is a terrible idea. I,
This is a
I,
stupid idea.
I hate
I'm being
you.
I'm being kidnapped. I've been
I don't know where
kidnapped.
I am now. Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it. This is a great idea.
That's funny.
I'll be doing the podcast in a very dark location. Like, hey, man, welcome to the show. Hey, y'all got Wi-Fi?
Right, right. Just give me
This is like
Wi-Fi, guys.
this is like a taken scenario. You could be like my Liam Neeson. You go have to save me, Jacques. That might be what
Yeah,
happens here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very select set of skills. Yep.
All right, so moving on to the show, Jacques. You had we did a, video about a, sneaker that's going to be, well, by the time this video comes up, this podcast comes up, it will have already released. It is the
Yeah,
Air Jordan 12 flu game.
Blue
Now,
Games. Yeah,
yeah, and I have to say, I can't believe it's coming back because when I think about the flu game 12, I still have my pair from 2016. And I'm like, wait, they're bringing it back? But mine still looks so fresh, even though I've worn it so many times. Like, there's still like this mental thing in my head of like, wait, I got these in, what was it? I think it was 2016.
yeah,
And I still have this image of like, I just got these. Why are they bringing them back so soon? And then you look at it, you're like, wait, it's been 9 years. Like,
yeah,
what is time anymore, right? Like, what is time anymore? And I guess it makes sense for it to come back. Like, every 9, 10 years makes sense. There's a new generation of sneakerheads coming up trying to get like the sneaker and
yeah.
all that stuff. So it is fair. But I still look at my 2016 pair and I think to myself, we're still good. We're all right. We're all right. Like, I don't feel the
Yep.
need to re-up. But
Yeah, I don't feel the need to re-up either.
yeah, yeah. Well, you have a
Like
pair right there.
I have, but I only borrow these because I wanted to
Yes.
see what they look like and get my hands on them. I
Yes.
still have my 2016 pair,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny. I was reading through the comments on the video for the unboxing, and someone said something about like they find them hard to wear, and like that's I think my problem with the 12s. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of find them hard to get a fit off.
Oh, get a fit off.
Um,
Oh, okay. You mean not
yeah,
necessarily like actually the comfort wise? Because I think the 12s are pretty,
no,
at
no,
least
no,
for my
not
feet,
comfort
I think
wise.
they're fine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, comfort wise, they're probably the best. I would say. I would say they're probably the best Jordan shoe of that era to play in. The
To
12s.
play in. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even golf wise, I feel like the 12 is the best Jordan golf shoe, like the best
I
golf
think
shoe
both
that
in look.
Jordan makes.
Yeah, I think both in terms of like looks, like like the 12s feel like they could be a golf shoe, regard like even if you look
Yeah,
at it as like it's a hooping shoe, but when you place it on the golf course, you're like, no, it works there too. I feel like
yeah,
that's an underrated, I think, feature of the Jordan 12 is like it's actually pretty versatile. I do
yeah,
remember when I was younger, when I first saw it, I was like, those look like snails. But as I've grown to like appreciate it more, there's like a snail kind of like, especially when it's like the color blocking is like the black and white, the playoff one. It's just so
yeah,
tonally from from one part of it to another. It's like it looks like a
yeah,
snail a little
yeah.
bit. But as I've grown to, appreciate it and everything, I think it might actually be my favorite besides like the threes in terms of like that era, like that part of Jordan's career,
Okay.
like the Bulls era Jordan. I think it might be my second favorite pair of J's besides the threes. But
Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. But in terms of like playing in them and like just the stability of them, I think they might be like I definitely prefer them over the 11s. Like that's not even
Yeah,
close in terms
yeah.
of like playing and everything. But what did you think about like the feedback? Because we kind of played up the storytelling aspect of it and why some certain people might be like just tired of the story, like because we've told it so many times, and we even highlighted it in your old video that you did on unboxing in 2016. You already
Yeah.
told the story then, and we're just telling the story again. And I can see within the angle we played was like there can be fatigue. Like we know, like
Hmm.
there's like there could be people who are like I know the story already, and obviously there's like a new, like I said, there's a new generation that comes up, and maybe they haven't heard the story before. But for those of us who are a little bit like who have seen it before, who have gone through like the cycle already, it's like we need to come up with new. I don't know if it's like we need to come up with new angles or if it's like why do we keep telling the same stories over and over again? So like,
Hmm.
and the fear is like people get tired of it.
Yeah, and I, and while I think we were right, I also I think we may have misjudged the appetite for these a little bit.
Mm.
Um,
How so?
I posted the real version of
Uh
this
huh.
video to Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the responses are people being like, I still haven't been able to get these.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm going to get them this time, kind of
For
thing.
those of us who are like for those of us who have had like who have been through it like and maybe didn't get the 2016 period. We're not necessarily talking about like younger generation. Maybe this is their first time really experiencing the launch of a Jordan 12 flu game. We're talking about those who missed out on 2016, or those who did not appreciate the was it the 2009 pair that had like the emoji.
The
They
emoji
maybe
on
that
it.
yeah, then maybe they weren't feeling that one. So if you think about it, if they weren't feeling the 2010 2009 pair and they missed out on 2016, they had to go all the way back to like 2000. What was it, like 2 or 3 when it retro? So
2003, yeah.
so if they missed out on that, like, yeah, I could see that. Like, I could, I guess you're right. Like, I can see those who are like, oh, I can finally get a pair of these, and this is probably like the easiest it's ever gonna be, like to get
Yeah,
a pair of these. It's
I
probably
would,
gonna be the
yeah, I
easiest.
would say this is probably the easiest going to be to get a pair.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I you forget now because I guess we just kind of glossed over now how it's easier in most circumstances to get a pair of retros now, but that wasn't the case in 2016. Like,
That's true. That's true.
we kind of, I think we looked at it through today's lens, not really taking into consideration how hard it was to get that it was still really hard to get shoes back in 2016. So,
Right.
um, now obviously this is all anecdotal. This is just my Twitter feed and people responding
Sure.
to
Sure.
my Twitter questions. So
Sure.
they're very well, it very well could be a very small sample size, but it was interesting to see like that was a majority of the responses were like, oh no, I still want these. I still got to get these. I haven't had these. I still want to get a pair. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, because everything else is seems just so accessible now that
Right.
I think we lost the we it wasn't we didn't effectively communicate that angle. Maybe is the way to put it.
Well, I guess we were coming in from our perspective of like we've kind of gone through it before. We're kind of doing it
Yeah,
again. So I guess we're more telling like our perspective. So, but it is good though. I think it's a good thing that there are still people who are like, oh no, I'm excited for these. I can finally get them. Maybe
yeah,
this is my chance because look, if Black Cement threes can sit on a store, I mean anything's possible at this point. So I would imagine that these flu game 12s. I mean, we'll see what happens because it's releasing, or this thing is releasing, before we're recording. Um, After we're recording. Um, and I'm
after
gonna
yes,
be interested
after.
to yes, I'm gonna be interested to see if they sit in stores, like maybe kind of like the Black Cement threes. Like I think it was like maybe 2-3 weeks after I was still seeing them in stores. So
Mm.
we'll see with the flu games if it's gonna be the same situation because if we're talking about iconic Jordans, this is up there, like with the best of it. And we're talking about, and we talked about it too in the video. Is like when we talk about like a specific shoe tied to a specific moment, this might be the most significant Jordan, like in terms of like tied to like specific moment. Like when people talk about the flu games, people also talk about the shoes. Like that's literally the name of the. Let's literally like we basically give. We don't call it breads. We don't call
Right.
Jordan 12s breads. We call them flu games. So it's
Right.
even managed to like it's transcended like the most common calling of like what a Jordan, like what a black and red Jordans are.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's a little bit more significant in that case. So yeah, no, I'm just gonna be curious to see what's gonna happen once these release, and hopefully everybody who has been asking for these has been waiting for these will be able to get them regardless of whether they cost $200 or not. I think what are they,
Yeah.
200, 210? Ugh.
So I saw a tweet. I wanted to ask you about this. I saw a tweet that said they were black and red until 2009.
2009. Interesting. I'll say they weren't like really calling them flu games.
They weren't called flu
Like,
games until 2009.
oh,
Do you
interesting.
remember that? I was trying to think back, and I honestly don't remember. But
Right.
I was like, maybe I was like, I mean, I mean, that could be true.
Maybe it became more commonplace to call them flu games in 2009, but it's kind of like maybe is it kind of like the last shot, Jordan 14s where like people started, when did they actually start calling them the last shot 14s, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, when I thought about the flu game, I always thought about like maybe I didn't call them the flu game Jordan 12s. But I always thought when I thought about the flu game, I thought about the Jordan performance, but also those shoes. So it was always in my mind. Maybe I just didn't put the two things together. But it
Mm-hmm.
was always in my mind when I think about the flu game, I think about, what Jordan did, but also those shoes. So maybe I didn't call them flu game 12s, but they was always in the back of my mind. It's not a situation where it's like, okay, when the Jordan 11s came out, I always called them patterned leather 11s. Like there was no Concords, there was no Space Jams, there was no whatever. I was always
Yeah.
like, these are patent leather 11s. These are patent leather Jordans. So it's
Yeah.
just whatever we came up in our minds at the time. So yeah, maybe it didn't become a more common nickname until 2009, but I
Yeah.
think it was always in the back of most people's minds when they think about the flu game.
They
They
thought
think
about
about
that
those
shoe.
Jordan. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't official. All right, then again, there's no official nickname. What call it whatever you want, really. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Yeah. True. Like I also
yeah.
wonder, like, when did we start saying bread
Oh,
versus black?
gosh, I didn't really hear bread until we started doing this gig. Like I always they were just the original Air Jordan ones to me. They were the canonical Air Jordan ones. Well, those and the Chicago's. Like I always thought the Chicago's were just Chicago's, but bread, I don't think that came up until I didn't hear it until we started doing this gig, which would
Started
mean
doing
like
it.
early
Yeah.
2010s, like early
Yeah.
2010s. So maybe it was like a big thing on Nike Talk and all the forums and all that stuff like prior, but I never thought about calling them breads until like I started working at Kicks on Fire. And like everyone is calling them breads. I'm like, what? What are you guys talking about? Like the bread? Oh no, black and
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I hadn't heard about it until I started writing in sneakers of calling it, but I just called them black and red
yeah,
11s.
black and
That's
red 11s.
that's
Yeah.
literally what they were to me, black and red 11s.
So
So
everybody who's like thinking, oh, these two are frauds. They were not like about the sneaker life and all that. It's like, no, that's not what that was. It was more we started working and we started like, oh, we learned about it. Like, we weren't like disrespecting
yeah,
it. It was more just like so that's the nomenclature, that's the language. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, so that's what it is, and we wrote accordingly, we talked about it accordingly.
yeah.
All right,
But
so moving on to the next topic, Jacques. So we're recording this the night prior. Steph Curry, he woo, exactly, that's exactly the proper reaction. We had a shall we say a vintage Steph Curry
bit,
game. Vintage. I think it's sad that we're saying vintage, right? Because it's like, oh no,
yeah, but
okay.
yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but a moment that I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but like one of my favorite memories of like having a Steph game was when we were at the house, the oh my gosh, what's his name? Jimmy Goldstein, the Goldstein house.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it
yeah,
was
yeah,
like a
yeah.
Nike SB. Was it a Nike SB event? It was like, what year was that?
I think
2015,
so.
2016?
Yeah,
Yeah, you were there. I think we were. Was it like the release of I forget whose shoe it was, but Costin. It might have been a Costin shoe or
probably a
something.
Costin. I think it was a Costin shoe.
It was a
Yeah,
Costin shoe, right? And that was the night when Steph had that game against the Thunder, where he was just bombing it from everywhere. And I don't think there was a TV. We were all just watching on our phones, just checking every once in
yeah.
a while. Be like, yo, Steph did what?
Steph's out here cooking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Steph's out here cooking, and we were just like, we were doing the event and all, Costa was talking to us and all that stuff, but at the same time, we're all just like, yo, man, so what's going on?
what the fuck is happening? Yeah,
Yo, what is happening
yeah,
over here? So we are getting like, I was getting text messages like, yo, Steph's going wild and everything. So that was one of my favorite moments where you were also there too. So, but yeah, like it was one of those games last night, and I was like, man, God, I miss those days. I miss it when Steph would have just those wild nights and when he would just like, okay. So
yeah.
yeah.
He went on a run for a while where he was just outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a period of time when he was just bananas. And I think
And
I don't and like you know what, now I need to look up his stats. I'm gonna look up his stats because
oh,
like
like the
it's
percentages and everything. Yeah,
like
yeah.
what
But it's
like has he been, because he hasn't been, is it the back, is he, has he not been playing well? No, it looks like his stats this year, he's still been
no,
scoring like 24 a game, so it's not like he hasn't been playing well, you know what I mean? It's
but
just
it's just
been
one of those nights where everybody just had the
yeah,
vibe. Like it was just the vibe of that night. It was like, oh man,
yeah,
like it was one of those moments where you're like, hey man, Steph's having a great game. Like turn on the TV or go on League Pass or whatever right now, right? It's one of those kinds of
yeah,
games. And I guess part of it is because Jimmy Butler's there now, and I've been reading a lot of things about like how Jimmy has like unlocked another part of Steph's game, and like how
Oh,
it has
interesting.
really like opened him up, kind of like maybe how Clay used to do, right? When Clay was
Right.
still like prime Clay Thompson, where
That
it would
makes
give
sense.
like yeah, where like the focus couldn't be always on Steph. You always had to look at Clay too, and
Yeah,
now
you
that
needed. There
Jimmy's
was another
there,
option.
yeah, now
Yeah,
that there's
Jimmy can.
another like yeah, yeah, so. I feel like maybe that's a part of it is, and also because it's so new, like, with Jimmy Butler there being so new, defenses haven't like caught up in terms of like adjusting to how,
How to play
how,
those two,
how to play those
how to
two,
play
right?
one versus the other. Yeah,
Yeah. So maybe that played a big role in it, but we're not talking about that, Jacques. We are not talking about that. We are not talking about how great Steph was and how cool that game was. Let's talk about LeBron because he said something.
I know where
So,
this is going. I know where
yes,
this
you
is
do.
going.
Because we're recording this, like, a little in the afternoon or like, almost lunchtime and everything. But this morning, Stephen A. Smith, I guess he started first take out with like the first take with the same bit. He was like, we were gonna lead this show with Steph Curry scoring 56 points and all that stuff, how great he is. But nah, we're gonna talk about LeBron because he said something about the face of the NBA and all that stuff, and he just went off on a whole tangent. Gilbert Arenas was there, your close personal friend Gilbert Arenas.
My close
Uh,
personal friend.
and Windy was there, Brian Windhorst, and yeah, like Stephen A was just mad at LeBron for basically for something that LeBron said post game because the Lakers were playing the Timberwolves last night, and Lakers won, of course, because good times. We're doing good. We're
Good
doing
times,
good.
because
Good
that's how
times,
we.
of course.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. Shout out Luca. Shout out Luca. Shout out LeBron.
Shout out
But
Luca. Shout out Luca.
yeah. So LeBron said something to the effect of, I guess I don't know if he was asked about it, but he basically gave his 2 cents about the whole face of the league conversation and why Anthony
Uh,
Edwards doesn't want to be the face of the league. And LeBron said something to the effect of, why would he want to be the face of the league when all the media does is talk smack about you, whether you're doing good or, whether you're doing good or bad. It's like all it is negativity and all that stuff.
oh, I
And
like this.
Stephen A just went off on LeBron. It was like, you did this and you did this, you did the decision, you didn't, participate in the dunk contest. And here's my take on it. The dunk contest was how many, like, LeBron, he shouldn't have done the dunk, like, he didn't do the dunk contest. He deserves to be criticized for it, but it's been
Yeah,
20 years. It's been 20 years. Like, can we like let that go? And the
like
decision
LeBron.
was 2010. Let that go, man. Like, there's a whole other generation of players and athletes that we can talk about. Like, yes, LeBron brings a lot of attention onto himself, but as the media, we also, and I would consider us like a little part of it too, because we did the sneaker thing for a while. We were considered sneaker media at the time too. We also have the responsibility to present the audience with other stuff too, like talk
Yeah,
about the other good things that are happening, right? So for Stephen A to like just go on that epic rant, which it's an epic rant, it's just like it's wild to me because it's like, yeah, LeBron deserves criticism, but it's also we like media also deserves the criticism because all we do is like feed that beast. And it's
yep,
like and I feel like the media also has the responsibility to also like share and talk about like good stuff that happens in the league. Like talk about the bad
yeah.
stuff, criticize it all you want, but like have that balance of like when Steph goes for 56, talk about Steph going for
Should be
56.
the main topic of conversation. Yeah,
Yeah, talk about like I said, we just talked about it, like how Jimmy Butler has maybe helped, like get this part of Steph out, out in the open again, where like maybe he
yeah,
was struggling or not like performing as high level, like having Jimmy there, maybe Draymond's doing well, like talk about that, have that be the A block, have that be the top segment. If you want to talk about LeBron later on, cool, like that's the B segment or like second, third segment or whatever, do
yeah.
that, but lead with the game. you know lead with the thing that we actually watched it for. Like if you want to talk about like LeBron, talk about the game last night against the Timberwolves, like
Right.
talk about what happened then. Like Luca, I don't think it was Luca was shooting well last night, but talk about that. Like talk about
Yeah.
the things that are actually happening on the court, not this whole like LeBron says something about being the face of the league and all that stuff. It's like, oh come on, what are we doing here?
It
Like
makes
it's
easy
tired, man.
content. It's easy
Yeah,
content for
sure,
them.
sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean? This makes it easy. Like the hot takeification, hot takeification of ESPN
Yeah,
is just wild. I think we all like extraordinary performances need to be rewarded with more than just a quick note and then switching over to LeBron. I mean, I get why Steven is talking about LeBron, and being the face of the league because it's such a hot conversation now of, being the face of the league since All Star. It's kind of become a bigger thing.
yeah,
Um, but I would still like you got to give Steph his flowers all day today.
yeah. Like lead with that. At least lead with that. Like if Stephen A had started the show with Steph scored 56, let's start the show with that. Fine. And then if you want to get to LeBron because you have to get absolutely positively have to get there because ratings or whatever, get there later. Like
Yeah,
it was just the way that it started was the thing that bothered me the most. And I don't know, man. Like it's really getting tiring that and because it's ESPN, right? It's the lead, that's where everybody gets their, that's everybody where everybody gets their take from. That's where everybody
yeah,
kind of gets that's the leader. So that and then basically everybody follows. So everybody does the same thing.
yep,
So like if they took more of a responsibility to lead with the game, talk about the game and how the strategy, right? And that's why like I appreciated that LeBron and JJ Redick podcast, even though I was just lost in the weeds of it. I was like, oh man, they're talking about terminology that I had no idea. They were like floppies and all that stuff.
it's so good. That
Yeah, it
podcast
was
is
good. It
so
was
good.
really good. Like I learned a lot, but at the same, like maybe it doesn't have to be that deep for like the casual viewer, but
Mm.
give them a little bit of that too. Like, don't just be like narratives and hot takes and all that stuff. And maybe this, and once you do that, like maybe the perspective, like, the viewership will shift too. Like, maybe they'll start to actually like appreciate the game a little bit more and all that stuff, right? Like,
Yeah,
you got to start somewhere.
yeah,
So, and that's why I was just, oh man, like, it's just kind of like bothered me so much. I was like, you started this. You
yeah.
started this.
Like,
Like,
come on,
you and
Steven.
Skip, you and Skip, really. I mean, like Skip sucks, like and all that. Like you and Skip were like the ones that really kind of,
If
and
he
yeah,
who shall not be named.
yeah, it's exactly, yeah, exactly right. Yes, exactly. Well, my bad, my bad. He who shall not be named. Shout out to Shannon Sharp. So yeah, Shannon did the right thing. Getting out of there at the right time, man. And now he's
Get
got
out of
his
there.
own.
Run.
Bruh, do not look back. Start your own
Yeah.
media empire, man. Shout out Club
Yeah.
Shay Shay. Whew. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, like if they just had this more balance, then I think we would just be less. We wouldn't talk about it. We wouldn't have done this whole bit. You
Yep.
know, we would have just mostly talked about like Steph again. Steph scoring 56. But anyways, all right. So let's move it. Shifting back to sneakers. Luka did wear the Jordan Luka 4. Do you think that was purposeful? Do you think they did that on purpose? Like, yeah, nope, we got to show the new shoes right now because they are going to be everyone's going to be really paying attention. Or were they saving it for something else? Did they rush it, or do you think it was all part of the plan, or what do you think what happened there?
Um, that's a great question, and I would assume that they were probably planning to roll it out for the second half of the season.
Right.
So it about makes sense. Um, I don't know if it was tied to. I mean, All Star obviously would have been a big moment, but it kind of would have got lost in All Star because so much stuff happens around All Star. It's almost
And
like
Luca wasn't
almost
an all star, so that's the other thing too.
yeah. So I think. I mean, I'm not gonna wear any tinfoil hats about this one. I think this was a I think this was a good time. I think this is a good time as any. It's the second half of the season. This rolls us into summer for kids that are doing, AAU stuff. Like this is a perfect time.
Right, and we talked about it on the show too about like having the Jordan Luca being a I would say a more affordable alternative to like the LeBron
Oh
and
yeah,
how that
100.
yeah, if Luca's gonna be like the guy in LA, he's gonna have a shoe that's gonna be even more affordable than Kobe's. I
Yeah,
think what is it? Luca's are like what 140, 130. I mean,
That's
that's gonna
so
be
good.
huge, and that's gonna be huge, especially like if kids really latch on to Luca, that the way they latched on to Kobe here in LA, it's something it's not gonna be the same, obviously, but they're gonna be like, I want the shoe of our guy, and
Yeah.
they can tell their parents, hey, it's cheaper than a LeBron, so that's the way they justify it. So I think that's gonna be huge for them. Design wise, I think we still need to see more. Like that first colorway. I think I saw some responses on social media about like it kind of has like a Tatum 3 vibe, that hollowed out part, but this one is like
Yeah.
it's filled in. So
Yeah.
I don't like, but yeah, like I said, like I think we still need to see more of the Luca 4 to really get like a more
A clear
accurate, like
picture of what,
clear
yeah,
picture of
of
it.
what it's
Yeah,
going to
like
be.
I think
But
we
I mean,
made a bit. Oh yeah,
it's
go
not
ahead.
crazy different. It's not crazy different from the three, but
Mm,
yeah,
yeah, it does seem to
Eh,
have like that motorsport influence, like the way that part is designed,
that
like
part is like a
it's
racetrack.
like
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he loves cars. Him and Devin Booker, I guess.
All right, so moving on to since we talked about like the Luca having like that motorsport kind of influence shot, I'm gonna try to like steer the conversation. See what I'm doing here?
Okay.
Trying to trying to move it into
Okay,
something a
I'm
little bit.
watching. We're
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. So Drive to Survive, we're back, baby. Season 7. The trailer has dropped, and woo, I am excited.
So
Even
I
though
haven't watched the trailer yet, so
I
don't
haven't watched
ruin
the
it
trailer.
for me.
No, I'm not gonna ruin it for you. But basically, Drive to Survive, it's the Netflix show based on the F1 season prior. They always drop the show apparently before the new F1 season begins, so they're gonna be presenting the 2024 season. And man, I am pumped because yeah, this is like the first. Last year was like the first year that I really started paying attention to F1,
Hmm.
and I gotta say, man, like it's my well, I mean, basketball and golf are always going to be like up there, but man, F1 like moved up the charts really quick.
Yeah, man, I fell in love with it the same way. I started watching Drive to Survive a few seasons ago, and now I'm just locked in. I've even watched a couple of races, and I was like, no, I'm never watching this. I'm not gonna watch it. Even when I started watching the show, I was like,
Yeah,
I'll pay attention, but I'm not gonna
yeah,
watch a race,
yeah,
bro. Like they're just going in a circle or whatever, an oblong, twisty, turny circle.
yeah.
And then I
And
started
then,
watching some, and I was like, man, this is entertaining.
yeah,
They do a really good job.
yeah. And and then you start to realize that it's not just going around in circles because I think we've been so conditioned to think of like when it's racing because of NASCAR here in America. It's like, oh, they're
Mm,
just going around in circles. There's really not a lot of. I mean, there's crashes and all that stuff. It could be like a wreck sometimes, but with F1, there's a little bit more to it. And then you start to realize the strategy of it. You're like, oh, there's a lot more to this than just zoom zoom.
yeah, yeah. The constant radio, like
The radios.
I wanna sit in. I wanna have a headset on for a race and really get like that full on
The experience.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like you hear you hear them when they're tired, like whenever something happens and like it gets really dramatic and stuff, and it's like, man, like stuff can get real heated out there, and it makes sense because
yeah,
they're at the speeds that they're going, they don't
yep,
really have time to be proper. They're gonna let out their emotions, and they are going to tell you how they really feel at that moment. Because man, there's no holding back when it comes to that stuff. So,
yeah. I
yeah, I
mean, they're
love
under a
it,
lot of
and
pressure.
yeah,
There's so much pressure, and everything's going on around you, and like you got to communicate, talk back to the people, but you also got to worry about the car behind you, and the next turn. Like all those
yeah,
things are happening simultaneously. So you got to be curt, as
yeah.
someone would say.
And the thing with Drive Through Survive is they're really highlighting the drama aspect of it because you're not going to get any of the technical. Like if you're going into Drive Through Survive to really learn about the sport, you're not going to get any. You're not going to get
No,
that out of Drive to Survive. You're going to get the stories, the drama, the narratives, and all that stuff.
yeah,
And as somebody who just talked about like complaining about Stephen A. talking about the drama and the narrative and all that stuff, I like it here in F1. I love it because of the way it's presented. It's fun, it's mostly goofy stuff, and it's like stuff
yeah.
that really shouldn't be taken that seriously, but it is because it's like a hyper competitive like
Hyper
environment.
competitive. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, like I watched Drive to Survive for the drama, but I also watch like the actual races and watch the the F1 channel for like the analysis, the strategy. So there's like a balance of both for me in that case.
Mm.
So I'm looking forward to the drama part of season 7, especially because the big news of like Lewis Hamilton going from Mercedes to Ferrari.
Yep.
Like I want to know how they cover it and how much insight we can get out of that. I don't know how much we're gonna get. I don't know how much Lewis is going to talk about it on Drive to Survive. I mean, Toto Wolff is there, so he's going to talk a lot about it for sure because he's like one of the main characters of the show. I don't know about
Yeah.
Lewis. I don't know about Lewis. Like he
I
seems like
think they would
he's
all. I mean, they'd all. You got to talk about it. Like it was.
yeah.
I mean that's people probably talked about that. Oh, I shouldn't say that. It was probably the top 5 stories from last year. Probably
It might
top
be.
3 stories.
Yeah, I mean, because like it happened so early, it wasn't like a
Yeah.
shocking move. It was a shocking move like at the start of the season. But if it had happened like when they call it like the off season, like their break, the summer break, because usually that's when happens when like drivers move, I guess. And
Yeah.
this is what happens when you get into like the F1 hole is like the deep dive and all that stuff. You start like learning all these things, the silly season and all that. It's like typically
As you
like
should.
the summer season is when like all of the moves happen. But with Lewis, he did it at the start of the year. So they had this whole year of like everybody talking about like Lewis going to Ferrari and how's that going to affect his
Yeah.
driving and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm going to be very, very excited to see how they cover that. And yeah, and of course, there's Max Verstappen and how he was like in competition with Lando Norris for, the drivers championship.
It'll be interesting to see how they tell that story this season, how they put all those pieces together. They
Yeah.
do they do a good job of the drama and adding to the drama and doing a little bit of misdirection, I would say, especially if you watch the season and then
Yeah.
then watch Drive to Survive. You're like, well, like it didn't exactly happen that way, kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
But
Right.
they have some creative liberties with it, very much in the reality TV show era. But I mean, overall, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how
Absolutely.
this
Yeah. No,
season, especially since you kind of kept up with last season, to see how it really plays out this season with all the drama and everything that's going on.
yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And then so we're gonna close the show with something that I thought was kind of interesting that dropped. I guess it was like the day before. So you actually have this sneaker that I wanted to talk about. It's the Dot Swoosh. It is
Oh
the
yes,
Air Max One Poly, and it's the Adventure. I guess they're calling it the
yeah,
Adventure, and it's unofficially, I guess, based on the Tomb Raider series, and its iconic character Lara Croft. So
yeah,
Jacques, right now, for those who are not watching the video, he's showing off the sneaker. Basically, it's the Air Max One Poly, which means that the shape, the curvatures of the swoosh, and the overlays have more of like a sharper look to it because they're trying to represent like polygons. So there's like the gaming connection to it,
gaming
and
connection, yeah,
yeah, they did a whole thing on Dot Swoosh, or I don't know, it was on Sneakers app where you had to do like a set of challenges in
yeah,
order to get the sneaker. And I guess this is a nice. I don't know. I think we've also criticized it too, but it's like I guess this is a nice evolution of Dot Swoosh, where like before we were talking about like the NFTs and like you need to have like IDs and all that stuff, and that's kind of fallen off the cliff. And now we're just doing like little mini games now in order for people to get the shoes. I gotta say, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, I'm kind of okay with them moving on from that initiative, like from the artifact of it all, and like how
yeah.
complicated it got to just get a pair of sneakers now. Now we're just doing this little mini game stuff in order to get shoes, and maybe there's a part of me as a gamer, as someone who did like the whole journalism thing for a while, that thinks it's a little cheesy and corny. But for a general audience who just enjoys like having that hit of nostalgia, like, oh, these sneakers are based off Lara Croft and Tomb Raider, I remember playing that game.
Right.
Like it's a nice for them. Like it doesn't have like, because for me when I saw the game I was like, that's not how it's supposed to look like.
Right.
Yeah, like this is my like nerdy gamer thing coming like out in the open. It's like, man, that's not that's not how it looked. That's not how Tomb Raider looked. It's not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to be a little bit more jagged, a little bit more like, and all that stuff. And that's not how the gameplay actually worked. Like you're doing these hints and all that stuff. And I'm like, I need to stop. I need to stop. I need to stop taking. I need to take the hardcore gaming nerd hat off and just talk about it from the sneakerhead general perspective and be like, oh, it's nice. Like I need to like stop thinking about it in that way. Like in terms of like just the general consumer who maybe has like a bit of nostalgia for Tomb Raider and sees the sneaker and maybe it kind of reminds them of that game, and they like the Air Max 1. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's a good shoe, made very well. I'm glad they found something to do with that swoosh. We were it was a little uncertainty for a while there about what was going to happen. Then they stopped artifact, like, shut artifact down.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
what really is happening right now. But I think it's all working out. They have this one looks good. I'll have a reel about it up over the weekend. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you follow me over on the socials. But
Oh, and
yeah,
also,
good weekend.
and I forgot about it because they also do like their integration with Fortnite. They have the sneakers there too, so that's neat.
Yeah,
So like that should have been always the play in the long run. That should have always been the plays, like to integrate like the sneakers into like video games and all that stuff. In that sense, like it's more organic that way instead of like trying to force this whole metaverse NFT thing down
yeah,
everybody's throat. And the end of the day, it was too complicated for most consumers to really get. Like that was the thing that I think really kind of killed the whole initiative. It was like, wait, I have to do this. I have to have these things. I have to like do this to unlock a certain thing, to unlock a certain like part of the shoe. And then the whole like there was the whole thing about like was it like the pre-order and how long it would take to actually get the sneaker, which we championed the pre-order idea, but when it's these sneakers that aren't really that great to begin with, like you're making us wait for like a sneaker that's not really popping and all that stuff. It's not really gonna maybe do well. So I don't know. Like I just thought it was just there was too much baggage, too much like stuff that you had to do in order to get a sneaker that not really that interesting really at the end of the day.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and that's how that goes. And speaking of that's how it goes, that is gonna do it for episode 26. I tried. I
What a
tried.
transition!
I am
What a
so
transition!
sorry. I am so sorry. I tried. I was like, wait, I need to come up with something.
And
Ah,
speaking of
whatever.
how it goes, we're gonna go.
That's we're gonna go.
That's hilarious. Anyway,
Oh,
uh,
that was a
that was a hell of
disaster.
a that's a hell of a way to end it.
That was dot swoosh s in terms of like execution, man. Woo!
Wow, what shots
I
fired.
I said what I said.
Uh,
Anyways,
everyone that Yeah, I'll
thank
let you
you
take it. I was
for.
gonna take it because I didn't know if you could recover from that transition, but I'll let you. I'll let you go ahead and. I'll let you go ahead
Oh
and wrap
my
it up.
gosh, man, that was awful. Anyway, so
Yeah,
thank you again for watching and listening to episode 26 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast.
podcast,
Yeah. Next week we are going to do a mailbag.
mailbag
So
day, mailbag
yeah,
time.
mailbag time. So if you have any questions, concerns, send them to the mailbag. Again, the email address is toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. Again, it is toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. That is the number two.
Number two.
Number
Yeah.
two. So send those questions and you might get featured on the mailbag episode. So yeah. Again, I am your co-host Juan Martinez. You can find me on the internets on Easyville. I don't post, but maybe you'll see something over the next couple of weeks. I might post a story or two or whatever, showing you
Wow.
where I am
Wow.
gallivanting. Where I am gallivanting. Where did
The
that
the
word
lack
come up?
the lack
Where?
of the lack of care you have about. Yeah, I mean, I might post. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, follow me.
Ah!
Yeah.
Anyways, Jacques.
Uh, I'm Jacques Slade. And every episode, I try to put together a Rubik's cube, and I still haven't done it during the episode because I end up talking too much. So
Wait, is that the goal? Is like we need to keep going with this podcast until you actually form a Rubik's cube?
no, no, I want to do it. I want to just do it while we're talking. I'm trying to train myself to be able to do it while I focus on other things, but that's not
Are
happening.
you
Uh,
trying to get into like that Rubik's cube, like those crazy like Rubik's cube like
no, no,
experts,
no, no,
where they're
no,
just
no,
like,
no. No,
can we
I
get you
saw.
can we get you on one of those videos where you have like the board and then you have like the timer, and then we're just
No,
like 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 you can have it while we're recording, right? And then you'll just see like the timer. That could be our timer for the show.
it
Like
would take too
that could
much
be.
time.
Yeah,
It would take
that
too
would be
much time.
that would be our timer. Like it could be like we're already like 50 minutes, and then you're just like, bam, we're done, and then we just like stop the podcast. No, that could be a gimmick. That could be a gimmick that we do on a future podcast. It's like you just doing the Rubik's cube, and we just keep going and talking until you actually form
The thing is, it's going to take too long. I'm not that good.
There's a part of me that kind of wants to do that just to have like the pressure on you. Like we're like at hour 3, and they're like, I'm still not done.
Yeah, that's not gonna go good. Anyway, all right. Well, watching Jacques
It's hour 4. It's hour 4 of the Too Hard Too Fast podcast, and we're still not done with the Rubik's cube.
This is what I see. This watching this said nothing. Who's still all over the internet? Thank you guys for watching the show. We appreciate you. Make sure you share, like, leave comments, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
Next episode, 6-hour podcast. Jacques just does the Rubik's cube.
Nope. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
All right, peace.
I'm almost done.